This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 1, Meet Your Teachers.
Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. In today's episode, we are going to naturally introduce ourselves, and you'll be able to pick up some phrases that we use in everyday conversation when you want to introduce yourself. Hey Lindsay, how you doing?
Hey Gabby, how are you? I'm doing pretty well.
Good. Well, I'm excited to have this first episode with you and to be able to introduce ourselves to you all, our listeners. So I think the first thing we want to do is just tell you a little bit about ourselves and what we do with English language. So Lindsay is a really experienced English language instructor and expert in culture. I want to let you talk about yourself a little bit. Tell us more about what you do.
Okay, so I teach English. I help my students to feel more comfortable just at work and at school. And I just think it's tough when you come here to the US and all of a sudden you have to perform, at work and you're under a lot of pressure. So I really try to partner with them and help them to feel more confident. I love it. I love teaching. I love connecting with people, and I love helping people develop themselves. How about you? What do you do, Gabby?
Well, I work with mostly university students or international students who are hoping to become international students. So I help a lot of foreign students or international students who are applying to college, and I help them fill out their applications and develop their essays and to improve their English to have that level to be able to enter an undergrad or graduate program in the US. So
awesome.
That's my main focus, and along with that, I help students adjust to life in the U.S. and see, how the education system might be different here. But right. I actually work in a university, and I also work with students outside the university who need some private tutoring or help with their schoolwork.
Cool, yeah.
I really enjoy it. Yeah.
So you help them get ready to kind of move into that academic space and kind of really start moving towards their dreams, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like education is the key to freedom. So I really want to help people just achieve their dreams and achieve that freedom.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so what do you do on the weekends?
On the weekends.
You don't work all the time,
I make podcasts with you.
Yeah, of course. Aside from that.
Well, besides teaching, my passions are to be really active. I like to dance. I like to swim, bike, and I don't like to run, but I'm getting into running as an exercise.
Cool.
How about you?
I also like to get active. I try to go running in the morning sometimes. Cool. I used to do a lot of traveling. These days I'm not traveling so much anymore. I need to get back out there. I'd love to go to India.
Oh, wonderful.
Someday. I'm not sure when that's going to happen.
Well, you've traveled a lot in the past, and so I'm sure you'll make it happen in the near future.
Yes. Where do you want to go next?
I think my next dream trip would be somewhere like Turkey.
Oh, interesting.
Or Thailand.
Yes, you should definitely go to Thailand.
A country starting with T.
Tanzania, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So, yeah, and I love to travel as well. I think it opens your eyes a lot. So, and that's the good thing about being in education, because working with international students, you can kind of see different cultures and different countries in your classroom. And although you're not traveling, it's just really cool. It's like you're traveling through your students.
Yeah, you feel like you're traveling sometimes. I love that. You're always challenged, and it's just such a cool field to be in.
Yeah.
All right.
So cool. So yeah, we're both English teachers, and we're here making this podcast to help out you all, our students near and far. So yeah, that's who we are.
Yeah, we're just here to help you start to just get comfortable with real English. We really want to help you, to feel that sense of intimacy with the language. So we're here for you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, hey guys, before we finish this episode, I have a really special gift for you to announce. If you are interested in learning 10 ways how you can learn English with podcasts, we have made a special ebook for you, and you can get it for free. Just go to our website, www.allearsenglish.com/free, and you can download that ebook and you can learn 10 ways to improve your English online with a podcast. It's pretty awesome, so go check it out.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time. This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 2, Teaching Tuesday.
Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
Okay, so here we are in today's episode. You are going to learn how to answer the most common interview question in the US.
And more. Hey guys, in this episode we are going to break down some phrases and some different parts of our conversation from our meeting Monday, our last episode, episode 1. And so you can always go back and listen to that conversation and hear how we used these phrases. Lindsay has a couple of great phrases for us, and these will help you understand conversation, but also, to talk, to create your own conversation. So Lindsay, what are your 2 phrases for us?
Okay, so the first phrase that we have, this is a phrasal verb, which I know can be tricky for students sometimes. And this expression is to fill out something, right? To fill out an application, right? When would you use this?
Yeah, I think that's the most common use, is to fill out an application. And really, whenever we need to use an application, I mean, that even sounds funny to say use an application. We don't use any other verb. I mean, you always fill out an application, unless you're creating an application, if you're on the other side of things.
Right. But anytime you're in, like if you're going in for a job interview, right? You're going to sit down and you're going to say, I'm here for the interview, and the person's going to say, please fill out this application.
Right.
Okay? Every time.
You might fill out an application by hand using a pen. You might fill out an application online using a computer.
All right.
But it's a really important phrasal verb to know for those contexts that you mentioned, for school and for work.
Definitely. So remember that one.
Great.
Okay, great. So the next one is the key, right? So we said that education, Gabby said that she thinks that education is the key to freedom, right? So what does that mean? What do you think?
The key is something that unlocks an opportunity or a door, right? You use a key to unlock a door, but it's kind of an analogy, the way we're using this it's figurative speech, right? I'm allowing an opportunity to happen. I'm going after an opportunity. So I need education in order to be free.
And another example would be, I think that hard work is the key to success.
Excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's another example of that. All right. So those are my teachings. How about yours, Gabby? What do you have?
So I have a couple of teachings that are a little different. One is a really important phrase, or question actually. And the other one is pronunciation. So let me start with the phrase, and it is, tell us about yourself. So this is a phrase that you'll hear often. When might we hear this phrase? What would you say?
Well, I would think about an interview again, the interview situation. It's so common when you sit down an interview in the US and the person says, the first thing they might say to you is, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. And even in casual conversation, like in our conversation, it wasn't an interview, but, I think I asked you, well, tell us about yourself. And that's something that you could hear at a party, you know?
Yeah.
If you're meeting people for the first time.
I guess so, yeah. For me, in my mind, it stands out as being a little bit more formal.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But sometimes you might hear it at a party or in a conversation like we just had.
Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Tell me about yourself.
So it's a really good idea to plan out your answer and have something ready to say, more than just your name and what country you're from.
Right.
You know, maybe talking about your interests or your career. Not too much, but you know, maybe like 30 seconds of something that you want other people to know about you.
Yeah, there you go. What else?
Okay, so we said a couple of times, what do you do?
Did you say it that way?
No, we didn't.
We would be so boring if we said it that way.
That's really slowed down. So we said it in a natural way because we want you all to hear what native, natural conversation sounds like. And I'm going to say it again just the way that we said it, and I'm going to pause afterwards so that you can repeat it. Okay, so get ready. Here we go. What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
Great. Yeah, so we use this talking about work. We asked, you know, what do you do for work? And we also asked, what do you do on the weekend? So this is a super common chunk of English, a phrase that these words just get stuck together. I mean, we don't pronounce each word separately. What do you do? Never, 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 never. Yep. So memorize this question as just one chunk. Like, it almost sounds like one word. What do you do?
Great.
Woo!
Good advice. I like it.
Great.
Great.
Great. Before we end our second episode, I want to invite you all to our website, and you can learn the top 10 ways to learn English online with a podcast. These are really practical strategies that you'll learn at www.allearsenglish.com/free. We'll see you there.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time. This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 3, Wisdom Wednesdays.
Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. In today's episode, we want to share some wisdom from our experience as language teachers and language learners. So we want to share with you all a tip about when to study. So study in the morning, because your willpower will be stronger right when you wake up. And additionally, to make this work even better for you, the night before, you want to write down what you're going to do. So then when you wake up, it's like you're on automatic pilot. You just get up, and even before you know what you're doing, you're studying.
Right, yeah. And I read something recently talking about how willpower is a muscle. And if we get up early, right, if you're on a normal schedule, you get up early, your willpower actually depletes throughout the day. So when you wake up, your willpower is the strongest. So try to do a small study task early, right? Something you can accomplish and get it done, and you will be on the right track for success that day.
I know personally this works really well for me. Whenever I decide the night before that I'm going to get up and do something important to me, whether it's studying or exercise, it works really well just to put myself on autopilot. It's like I don't have that decision, should I study or should I watch TV for an hour? There's not even a choice.
Yeah.
You just do what you really need to do.
I like that. So make English a part of your morning.
Yeah.
And you'll see yourself getting better much quicker.
Have you ever done this?
Yeah, I do this every night. I write out sort of a list of the things I'm going to do the next morning. And sometimes it's actually venting. It makes you feel good to be able to see all that on a piece of paper, and you're going to get up and you're just going to get started.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That works well for you, huh?
Yeah, totally.
Great. Yeah, so we encourage you to put your ears into English as soon as you wake up. All right, guys, have you ever wanted to know how you can learn English on your own using podcasts? We've made an ebook just for you to tell you 10 strategies how to learn on your own. And you can get that material for free at our website. Come to www.allearsenglish.com/free to get your 10 strategies and start learning now.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time. This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 4, Deep Thoughts Thursday.
Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
Okay, in this episode, we'll show you a way to stay inspired with your learning and continue to be inspired regardless of how many mistakes you make.
All right, guys, we have a very deep thought to share with you today. We have a quote from Mr. Frank Smith, and it has to do with language learning. Here it is. One language sets you in a corridor for life. 2 languages open every door along the way.
Wow, that's deep.
That is. But you know, it's true. It's true. And it's good to think about this as language learners. And maybe just before we talk about it, I just want to mention that corridor is like a hallway. So in a house or an apartment building, you walk down a hall and you often have doors on each side on the walls. And if you know one language, you can walk down the hallway. But if you know 2 languages, it will open up the doors or open up opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think this is so true. I mean, for me, going abroad and actually learning the language being abroad has made such a difference in terms of the depth of connections.
Absolutely.
You know, even if you forget the language later, the important thing is that people see that you're learning when you're in that country. And you're trying.
Yeah.
It's just like people's hearts open to you, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, think about, as a language learner, what that can do for your life. I mean, your career, your social life, in your travels. I mean, how do people react to you when you try to speak their language? And maybe you're not perfect speaking English or another language that you're learning, but people really appreciate that, right? I mean, in general, right? I can't just generalize for everyone, but I think you can open up more opportunities. Definitely, like, employers like to have people who speak more than one language.
Right. And it just seems like students sometimes are so hard on themselves. So guys, don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself some credit and realize that it's not easy to learn a language.
Right.
So you're out there, you're putting yourself on the line every day, and, you know, native English speakers respect you for it.
Totally.
You know, don't expect perfection.
It's not just about the language either. I think as you learn English, you also learn about the culture through the language, like different ways that we express different ideas, or just the grammar of the language, how it's set up. I mean, when I started learning Spanish, the first thing that we learned was that all the nouns were either masculine or feminine. And
oh man, that's so tough in Spanish.
Right? That's really hard for us to learn. And I'm sure there's things in English that are tough to learn, like the articles, like phrasal verbs, totally. And that's just the way that we express ourselves. But I mean, you'll open your eyes to the culture, especially when you start learning idioms. That's really how you'll learn how people think, right?
Definitely. I think so.
Yeah.
And that's why we also recommend trying to surround yourself with native speakers, live in an international house where people are speaking English, or live with American people if you're in the US. And just throw yourself into it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. And the more languages, the better, right? I mean, learn English, learn all the languages that you want to. It's just a beautiful thing.
All right. Good luck.
Learn more about how you can specifically learn English with podcasts. We have a free gift for you, our listeners. If you come to our website, www.allearsenglish.com/free, you will find a special gift that we made for you guys that outlines and explains 10 ways to learn English with us in a podcast. So I can't wait to see you there. Please come over right away to www.allearsenglish.com/free. See you there.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time. This is an All Ears English podcast. Episode 5 is College Worth the Price? And today is a meeting Monday.
Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
In today's episode, you'll learn how to get other people to pay for your college education in the US.
Today we're talking about, is college or university worth the cost? Because in the US it is extremely expensive to go to school. We have some excellent universities, but the cost can sometimes be prohibitive.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? And the cost has just been going up over the past 20 years.
It has been. So do you think, just in general, do you think it's worth it? Is it worth it?
Oh, it's a good question. Yeah. It's a good question. I don't know. I think about this a lot, and to be honest, I feel like less and less so these days, you know? Because you can really educate yourself without a college degree. And these days it's sort of at the same time, to get a job, you kind of do need that degree on your resume. But for example, a master's degree, in my opinion, might not be worth it.
Oh, interesting. So maybe it depends on your field.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. So I think my viewpoint is a little different. I think that education is the key to success. So I think that getting your master's degree, even going on for more education, is always a good idea. Investing in your education is always going to bring you forward and hopefully get a good job or teach you the skills that you need to create your own job. So I think that being in school teaches you a lot. Yes, you can learn things outside of school, but also having that certificate or degree, I think it means something. It is still valuable.
It gives you some credibility. I just think about opportunity cost, right? So that time that you're spending in graduate school, or that time you're spending on your PhD, like what could you be doing instead?
And you could be working.
Right, working or gaining skills that you might not be able to gain in graduate school. So it's a different set of skills that you might be gaining. I think just understanding what you really want to do in your career, and does that require a degree? Does it really require a degree?
Yeah, that's a good question. I also think that although you can go to school anytime in your life and it's never too late, it's definitely more advantageous to go to school as soon as possible, like when you're younger, because as you get older, you start making more money, and then to take time off to go back to school actually costs you more when you think about the cost of tuition plus the cost that you're losing from your salary. What did you say?
Just opportunity cost, the missed opportunities that you're not getting. That could be money from the salary, that could be other jobs you might want to try, internships you might want to take that you couldn't do if you're in school. And when you get older, you might have a family, and it becomes harder to actually take that time. I mean, being in graduate school takes a lot of time.
Well, I know someone who's working full-time, and he has a wife and a son, and he's doing a PhD program.
Wow, good for him.
Very busy guy. I think one important topic is to talk about how to actually make university cost less.
Yes, and you did a really good job of that, didn't you, when you were in school?
I did.
How did you do that,
So for my undergrad, I was working for the city of Portland, Maine at the same time as going to school, and they happened to have a program where they would pay for half of my tuition.
Wow, that's awesome.
So if you can find a job through the city, through the government, or even other jobs, ask your employer if they have any kind of assistance program to put you to school.
Very cool.
Sometimes you don't even have to be working full-time. It could be part-time work, and they still help you out with your tuition. So that was a major way that I saved money, and I encourage you all to just ask your employer if you're working about that, and also applying for scholarships. So I did get some small scholarships, but every little bit helps, and financial aid. So if you can fill out the FAFSA form, it's known as FAFSA, you might qualify for aid. And there's a lot of different ways that you can qualify. Maybe if you come from a family where no one else has gone to school, or if you don't make that much money or don't have that much money, or if you have really good grades in high school or from another program, those are all reasons that would qualify you. Or something random, like maybe you are a certain ethnicity, or you do
play the violin.
Exactly. So there's a lot of scholarships out there.
Great. So you were able to get your bachelor's and your master's degree partly paid for, both degrees partly paid for.
Well, that was my undergrad. My graduate degree was, I did get a scholarship, so that was partly paid for. And even though I was going to school full-time, I decided to work part-time at the same time, which kept me very busy. But
I can imagine.
For my budget, it helped a lot.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah.
So you really worked the system. I like that.
Yeah, so I think you have to hustle a little.
That's what you have to do. Hustle, pound the pavement, find a solution.
Exactly.
Okay,
put your nose to the grindstone, as they say. We have lots of idioms.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thanks for letting us know about that today.
Yeah, thank you. So great. So there are ways to go to school. Don't give up.
Don't discount it, but do think critically about whether or not it's right for you.
Absolutely. Good point.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Lindsay. So we've made a special resource for you all. It's an ebook with 10 top ways to learn English with a podcast. And you can get that ebook for free if you come to visit us at www.allearsenglish.com/free. So come on over and get your copy.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time.
This is an All Ears English Podcast, Episode 6, Teaching Tuesday.
Welcome to the All Ears English Podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. In today's episode, you're going to learn the top 4 phrases and vocabulary words to discuss in English with a native speaker. Is university really worth it? In our meeting Monday, we had a conversation about, is it worth it to go to college in the US? And so we'd like to share some vocabulary and phrases from the conversation that you can use in your own conversation. So let's get started. The first word that we wanted to talk about is prohibitive. We talked about the cost of college being prohibitive. Now, if you speak Spanish or Portuguese or a Romance language, you might recognize prohibit, something that is not allowed. It's kind of a cognate, so something that sounds similar to a word in your language. But if something is prohibitive, like the cost of college, it means it doesn't allow you to take part in that activity. Like, I don't know, what else might be prohibitive?
Yeah, I was thinking about the cost of living in some cities in the world, like Tokyo.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, what's another expensive city? Oslo.
New York.
New York. So some neighborhoods in New York are prohibitive to live in, like Soho. I mean, at least for me.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think that's a good example. Just the cost of something like a luxury car, that's the prohibitive cost for most people.
Mm-hmm, totally. That's a good example. And the next one was to be worth it. So we asked the question, is the price of college actually worth it? So what does that actually mean, Gabby?
Oh gosh, so is it worth it? Does it, the pain and the effort and the time that you put into studying, is the reward, does that justify how much effort you put into it?
Right. So does the reward justify the cost? That's a good way to put it. The cost in terms of effort, energy, as you said. Yeah.
We use this phrase sometimes with, the food we eat, like, is it worth it to eat a chocolate cake? Is the taste and the enjoyment worth it? It's not really healthy, right? And you might want to put in some more time at the gym. So is it worth it?
Right. In terms of the way you're going to feel afterwards. Okay.
Right.
Good. And what was the next one that you had?
The word advantageous. So there's a root advantage. So an advantage is something that puts you ahead. It is a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. If something is advantageous, it means it gives you that extra little help. Yeah. I think going to school is always helpful, so I would say it's advantageous. Mm-hmm. What else might be advantageous?
Yeah, I was just saying networking within your industry. If you're a professional in any industry, networking, going out in the evening and meeting people could be advantageous.
Learning a language is advantageous. Absolutely.
I think so.
And the last one, we have an idiom, pound the pavement. Tell us about this.
I really like this one because I imagine somebody literally running out on the street trying to get the thing done that they're reaching towards, right? So what is it that you're trying to do? In this case, we talked about getting scholarships. So you need to work hard. You need to go out and talk to people and network and see who can help you and maybe what you can do for them, how you can help them in exchange for their help. So just really do everything you can to reach your goal, is to pound the pavement.
Yeah,
is that how you would describe it?
I agree. Pound the pavement is to work hard, not expect things to happen to you because you're a nice or a good person, but you have to go out and you have to talk, you have to network, you have to put in the work.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the only way things get done.
Great. So just before we end the episode, I'll give you all a chance to repeat after us. So the first word was prohibitive. Is it worth it? Advantageous. And pound the pavement. Okay, awesome
good job, guys.
All right, see you next time. So we've made a special resource for you all. It's an ebook with 10 top ways to learn English with a podcast. And you can get that ebook for free if you come to visit us at www.allearsenglish.com/free. So come on over and get your copy.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time.
This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 7, Wisdom Wednesday.
Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
In this episode, you'll learn how to use the TV that you have in your home to learn new vocabulary words, feel more comfortable with the language, and start conversations with local people.
Alright, so today we want to share a tip with you to help you to learn English. And that tip is to turn on the TV while you're making dinner or maybe doing chores around the house. Just turn on the TV, of course, in the language that you're learning, so in English.
Right, and this is the benefit of living in the country that you're actually studying the language in, right? So if you're living in the US, that's fantastic. But often, even if you live abroad, you can definitely find a channel in English, right? I would imagine.
Sure. Or online. If you have the internet, you can find programs in English. You can listen to the news, the BBC, NPR.
Yep.
A couple of my favorites there. Mm-hmm. And you can use Hulu. You can, there's so many different, go to American channels as well, like ABC, NBC, Fox. So many choices.
So many options. So the benefit of this is that if you're there, you don't necessarily have to even be watching the TV, right? So if you're just cooking dinner, as we said, or just being there, just letting yourself be in that English environment can make a huge difference in terms of being comfortable with actually listening to the language.
Yeah, so I know, Lindsay, you've lived abroad, so have I, and you have experience with this. So how did you use this to help you?
Yeah, I would just come home after a long day at work of teaching English, and I would just turn on the TV in Japanese, and it helped just to get into that mode of, okay, I'm here in Japan, I'm just going to listen to Japanese, and it really did help me to feel more comfortable around it.
So you were living in Japan. I also lived in Japan, and in addition to the TV, I would often listen to the radio, and it's the same idea. You don't have to be watching the TV, it's just hearing the words. And I was in Japan at the time of the really big earthquake, and the word earthquake was repeated so many times. So I learned it because that repetition really helps. So
that's interesting.
Kind of a small good thing to come out of that period of time. But also, I know you've lived abroad in France,
Latin America, in France a little while.
Did you do this there too?
Not as much. I didn't have a TV.
Okay.
But I would just say that this gives you that confidence, right?
Yeah.
So you're hearing those, as you were able to hear that word earthquake, then when you were out with native speakers, you could hear them say it, and then you know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
And that gives you that little edge.
Yeah, exactly. I think it really helps with your listening comprehension, with your pronunciation too. It's just, it's an easy way to improve your language skills. So turn on the radio, turn on the TV, and I think if you watch a variety of programs, like watch the news, watch a sitcom, watch a comedy show, I don't know, a drama, that'll help you as well. I mean, why not find Grey's Anatomy about medical English, or what's a legal English show,
like Law and Order or something like that.
Law and Order. Yeah. I think one barrier is sometimes not knowing the names of popular TV shows. Like if you're not really familiar with what's on air, but ask your friends, ask your host family if you have a host family, or ask your coworkers what they watch.
Yeah, and it's also good to be tuned into what's going on in pop culture, so you can participate in those conversations.
You have something to talk about. Hey, did you watch that show last night?
Yeah, right? And sometimes that's the thing that might hold you back, right, from actually getting into that conversation. So if you can connect with somebody based on what happened in some show.
Yeah, and Americans love watching TV and talking about TV. So I know some of the most recent ones were Breaking Bad, Walking Dead,
or like Orange is the New Black is a big one. Have you seen that?
Have not. But I thought I would just drop some TV show names that I've heard people talking about.
Yeah.
So cool. It's just really really popular. So turn on that TV.
Awesome.
So we've made a special resource for you all. It's an ebook with 10 top ways to learn English with a podcast. And you can get that ebook for free if you come to visit us at www.allearsenglish.com/free. So come on over and get your copy.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time.
This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 8, Deep Thoughts Thursday.
Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. In today's episode, you're going to learn how to get over your fear of talking with native English speakers. Today we want to share a quote with you that has to do with language learning. And the quote is, "Life is inherently risky. There's only one risk you should avoid at all costs, and that is the risk of doing nothing." Love this quote.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. What does inherently mean, by the way?
Inherently is like really. I think that's the simplest word I can think of to boil it down. It's really the only thing that's really risky, truly risky.
Yeah, or just within itself, right? Without adding anything to it. It just is. That is the way it is. It is risky.
Yeah.
We're always taking risks in life.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to take risks. That's, I think, as they say, no pain, no gain. It's kind of similar. Like you have to take a risk. You have to do something where maybe you don't know the outcome.
Right.
But that's the way that you can have more gains, perhaps. You don't know what's going to happen, but sometimes you just have to take a risk in order to make, to have a better outcome.
Yeah, and the best language learners that I've met have been people that take risks every single day.
Yeah.
Like they do something that makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable every day. And that means in language learning, entering a conversation or volunteering to answer a question in class.
That's what we're talking about, really, is when you're studying English, put yourself outside of your comfort zone. And, try out a new expression, try out a new structure, talk to people who you don't know, and they could reject you and say, I don't want to talk to you, but it's more likely that they're going to be nice and they'll respond to you, and that'll be a new interaction that you can learn from.
Right. And just always think, what's the worst that could happen if you screw up in any situation? I mean, you're not going to die.
You're right.
So take the risk and try it. Use a new vocab word or enter a conversation, like we said.
Yeah, I think, I'd like to mention some ways that you can actually do this. So, I mean, asking for directions, asking for someone's opinion, like, hey, excuse me, do you know a good coffee shop close to here? I always use coffee as an example, but, or, do you know where the nearest, the nearest blah blah, the nearest post office, the nearest ATM, similarly asking for directions, right? But what are some other ways that you could talk to strangers?
I think those are great examples. And then also just committing to attending certain events where you'll have no option but to actually start those conversations, right? So committing to going to a meetup, saying, okay, Tuesday night is an English as a second language meetup. I'm going to go, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to communicate. So just like putting it in your schedule, writing it down.
So I went out last night, and one man had an interesting strategy for going outside of his comfort zone. He was carrying a paper coupon which said free hugs. So I'm not recommending this, but this is something that he did to just meet strangers. He would pull it out and he would show someone who he wanted to hug and say, excuse me, I have this coupon I would like to redeem for my free hug. So there's a lot of different ways. You can be creative. I mean, it's a little weird, a little different.
Yeah, I mean, you can create some kind of an alter ego and just sort of do that and get yourself out there, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I like that idea of creating an alter ego, actually, because when you think of yourself as kind of an actor on the stage, and they say life's a stage, right? It's less intimidating. It's like, well, this is my English speaker persona, and she's going to just be really outgoing and confident and meet 5 new people today.
It could be really empowering.
Totally.
So experiment with that, play around with that, and see what you can do.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks.
So we've made a special resource for you all. It's an ebook with 10 top ways to learn English with a podcast, and you can get that ebook for free if you come to visit us at www.allearsenglish.com/free. So come on over and get your copy.
Thanks for listening to the All Ears English podcast. We're here to help you learn English, and you can help us by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. See you next time.